The morning sun on Kepler 442b looked different from Earth's sun. It was bigger and redder, casting long orange shadows across the mining colony of New Denver. Jake Murphy wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked under the big drilling machine. The metal was hot, and the air was thick with dust. Jake was 34 years old and had strong hands from years of fixing machines. His hair was brown and getting thin on top. He wore dirty work clothes and heavy boots. Most people in the colony thought he was just another mechanic who fixed the mining equipment when it broke down. They were wrong about Jake Murphy. The ground started shaking. At first, Jake thought it was another earthquake. The planet had them all the time. But this shaking was different. It came from above, not below. Jake crawled out from under the machine and looked up at the sky. Dark shapes moved across the orange sky like storm clouds. But these shapes had hard edges and bright lights. They were ships. Big ones. Jake counted 12 of them before he stopped counting. His hands moved to his tool belt without thinking. Old habits from his army days. The ships landed around the colony like a circle of metal mountains. Dust flew everywhere. The ground shook harder now. People came running out of buildings, pointing at the sky and talking fast. Some were crying. Most looked scared. Jake was not scared. He was thinking. Lisa Carter ran up to him. She was the colony manager, and also the woman Jake loved. Her blonde hair was messy, and her blue eyes were wide with fear. "Jake, what are those things?" she asked. "Alien ships," Jake said quietly. "Big ones. Military." "How do you know they're military?" Jake pointed at the ships. "Look at the way they landed. Perfect circle around us. No way out. These aren't traders or explorers. They're soldiers." Then, nearest ship opened like a flower made of metal. A ramp came down and things walked out. They were tall, maybe 7 feet. Their skin was gray and rough like stone. They had 4 arms and big black eyes. They wore dark armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. The aliens moved through the colony fast. They did not shoot anyone, but they did not have to. The colonists saw the weapons and gave up without fighting. Jake watched it all happen and kept thinking. "We should run," Lisa whispered. "Hide in the mountains." "No," Jake said. "They already have us surrounded. Running would just make them angry." More aliens came out of the ships. Jake saw they had ranks on their armor like soldiers. Some gave orders while others followed. They worked together like a machine. This was not their first time taking over a human settlement. The biggest alien walked out of the biggest ship. This one was different. Its armor was fancier, with bright metal decorations. It moved like it owned everything it could see. The other aliens stepped aside when it walked past them. This was their leader. The alien leader looked around the colony like a king looking at his new land. Its black eyes stopped on each building, each machine, each person. When those eyes found Jake, they stayed there. Jake looked back. He did not look away. He did not show fear. Most of the colonists were on their knees now. Some were crying. Others begged the aliens not to hurt them. But Jake Murphy stood up straight and looked the alien leader in the eye. The alien walked over to Jake. Its boots made heavy sounds on the dirt. Up close, Jake could see the creature was even bigger than he thought. Its skin was like rough leather and it smelled like metal and something else Jake could not name. "You are different," the alien said. Its voice sounded like gravel falling, down a hill. "The others fear us, you do not." "Fear doesn't fix anything," Jake said. His voice was calm and steady. The alien made a sound that might have been laughing. "I am General Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to claim this world and its resources. Your people will work for us now. And if we say no? Look around you, human. You have no weapons, no ships, no army. What could you possibly do? Against the might of the Zephyrian Empire?" Jake looked around the colony. He saw the alien soldiers, their weapons, their ships. He saw his neighbors on their knees. He saw Lisa watching him with worried eyes. Then he looked back at General Vexitar. "You're making a mistake," Jake said quietly. This time the alien definitely laughed. It was a harsh sound like breaking glass. "A mistake?" I have conquered 47 worlds. I have broken the armies of dozens of species. What mistake could I possibly be making with a handful of dirt farmers and miners? Jake did not answer. Instead, he walked over to the big drilling machine he had been fixing. The aliens followed him but did not stop him. Jake picked up his tools and started working on the machine again. But he was not really fixing it. He was taking it apart. Piece by piece, he removed the important parts and put them in his tool bag. "What are you doing?" General Vextar asked. "My job," Jake said. He kept working. "I fix things. I also break them when I need to." The alien general watched Jake work. There was something about the human that was different from all the others he had conquered. This one was not afraid. This one was thinking. This one was planning something. "Bring this." "One," General Vextar told his soldiers. "I want to talk to him more." Two alien soldiers grabbed Jake's arms. He did not fight them. Lisa tried to run to him, but other soldiers held her back. "Jake," she called out. "It's okay," Jake told her. "Take care of the others. I'll be back." As the aliens led him toward their ship, Jake looked around one more time. He memorized the position of each ship, each soldier, each weapon. He counted the guards and noticed how they moved. He saw which aliens gave orders and which ones followed. General Vextar thought he was taking a prisoner. Jake knew the alien was really giving him a chance to learn everything he needed to know about his enemy. The ship's ramp closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Jake Murphy was now inside an alien warship, surrounded by creatures that could kill him with a thought, but he was not afraid. He had work to do. The inside of the alien ship was cold and dark. The walls were made of smooth black metal that seemed to eat light. Strange symbols glowed blue along the corridors. Jake walked between two alien guards, his boots echoing in the empty halls. They passed many rooms filled with machines Jake did not recognize. But he looked at everything. He memorized the turns they made, the doors they passed, the sounds the ship made. His mind was like a camera, taking pictures of everything he saw. The guards stopped at a heavy door. One of them pressed something on the wall, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a small room with bright white lights. There was a metal chair in the middle and nothing else. "Sit," one guard said in broken human language. Jake sat down. The chair was cold against his back. The guards left, and the door closed behind them. Jake was alone, but he knew they were watching him. There would be cameras. There always were. He waited. He was good at waiting. In the army, they taught him that patience was a weapon. While he waited, he listened to the sounds of the ship. The hum of engines, the whisper of air moving through vents, the footsteps of aliens walking in the corridors. After an hour, the door opened again. General Vextar walked in. Up close, in the bright light, Jake could see the alien better. The creature's skin was not just gray. It had patterns like old scars. Its forearms moved in a way that was almost like dancing. Its black eyes were smart and cold. "I have interrogated thousands of beings from dozens of worlds," the general said. He walked around Jake's chair in a slow circle. "Most of them break within minutes. They tell me everything I want to know before I even ask." Jake said nothing. He watched the alien walk around him. He noticed that the general favored his left side. An old wound, maybe. Something to remember. "You are different," Vextar continued. "You show no fear. Most humans weep and beg when they see me. You just watch. Why?" "Fear makes people stupid," Jake said. "I need to think clearly." "Think about what?" "About you, about your ship, about your soldiers, about how you do things." The general stopped walking. "You think you can learn something that will help you escape? How amusing. Do you know how many species have tried to resist us? They all failed. How many of them were human? A few. Your people are weak. You have no natural weapons, no thick skin, no poison. You break easily." Jake nodded. "That's what everyone thinks about humans. That's our advantage." "Advantage?" The general laughed. "What advantage could weakness possibly give you? People underestimate us, like you're doing right now." The alien's eyes narrowed. It leaned closer to Jake. Tell me about the other human colonies. Where are they? How many people? What defenses do they have? I don't know, Jake said. It was mostly true. He knew about some colonies, but not many. Details. You lie. The general's voice became harder. I can make you tell me the truth. We have ways of making any creature talk. I'm sure you do, but I'm telling you the truth. I'm just a mechanic. I fix mining equipment. I don't know about military stuff. The general studied Jake's face. Humans were hard to read sometimes. Their emotions were hidden behind their skin, not shown in color changes like many species. If you are just a mechanic, how do you know so much about military tactics? The way you observed my soldiers, counted them, memorized their positions, that is not the behavior of a simple worker. Jake was quiet for a moment. The alien was smarter than he had hoped. I used to be a soldier long time ago, old habits. Ah, now we get to the truth. What kind of soldier? Engineer. I built things, fixed things, mostly boring work. What kind of things? Jake looked around the interrogation room. His eyes stopped on a panel in the wall. Behind it, he could see part of the ship's power system. Thick cables carried energy to different parts of the vessel. The design was interesting. Not bad, but not great either. There were flaws. Defensive systems mostly, Jake said. Barriers, shields, communication networks, things to protect people. And you think your human engineering could stand against Zephyrian technology? The general gestured around the room. Look where you are. Our ships conquered your colony in minutes. Your defenses were worthless. We didn't have any real defenses, just some old mining equipment and a few security guards with basic weapons. Jake looked at the power panel again. But your ships are interesting. Mind if I ask how they work? The general tilted his head. You want to know about our technology? Why would I tell you that? Curiosity. I've never seen alien engineering before. It's fascinating. Jake pointed at the power panel. That distribution system, for example. It's clever how you route power. Through multiple pathways. Redundant systems are smart. Despite himself, the general felt a little proud. Zephyrian engineering was considered the best in their part of the galaxy. Of course it is redundant. We do not build ships that fail. The primary conduits run through the center of the ship, right? With backup systems along the outer hull? How could you possibly know that? Lucky guess. It's what I would do, but I'd probably add more isolation points. You know, places where you could cut off power to damage sections without affecting the whole system. The general frowned. Our ships do have isolation points. I'm sure they do. Just not very many from what I can see. Jake nodded toward the power panel. If someone knew where to hit, they could probably cause some problems. Nothing serious, of course, just enough to be annoying. Impossible. Our ships are designed by the finest engineers in the Empire. I'm not saying they're bad. They're actually pretty good. It's just that every system has weaknesses. It's the nature of engineering. You make trade-offs. You can't optimize for everything at once. The general was getting angry. No prisoner had ever critiqued Zephyrian technology before. Most were too terrified to even look at it properly. What trade-offs? Well, your ships are built for intimidation, right? Big, scary, impressive. That's smart psychology. But it means you probably sacrifice some efficiency for appearance. And if you're always conquering weaker species, you don't need to worry about sophisticated attacks. So your defenses are probably designed to stop missiles and energy weapons, not subtle sabotage. The alien general stared at Jake for a long moment. You know nothing about our ships. You're probably right, Jake said calmly. I'm just a mechanic who used to be a soldier. What do I know about advanced alien technology? But even as he said it, Jake was studying the room more carefully. The air vent above his head, the power conduits in the walls, the frequency of the lights. Every detail went into his memory like pieces of a puzzle. The general turned and walked toward the door. I will return tomorrow. Perhaps a night in our detention cells will make you more cooperative and more honest about what you really know. The door slid shut behind the alien. Jake was alone again, but now he knew much more than when he had arrived. The general had told him about the ship's power systems, its defensive philosophy, even its design priorities. Jake smiled in the empty room. The interrogation was going better than he had hoped. The alien thought he was asking the questions, but Jake was learning everything he needed to know. Tomorrow, he would learn more. And when he had enough information, he would show General Vextar exactly what a human engineer could do with advanced alien technology. The alien had made his first mistake by bringing Jake aboard his ship. Soon he would make many more. The detention cell was even smaller than the interrogation room. It was just a metal box with a hard bench and a tiny window in the door. Jake sat on the bench and listened to the ship around him. He had been listening for 6 hours now, learning the ship's rhythm. Every 20 minutes, a guard walked past his door. The footsteps were always the same: heavy boots, slow pace, bored attitude. The guard never looked through the window. This was routine for him. Jake had also learned about the other prisoners. He could hear them through the thin walls. Lisa was in the cell next to his. He had heard her voice when the guards brought her in. She was trying to stay calm, but he could tell she was scared. Down the hall were more colonists. Old man Peterson, who ran the supply store, Mary and her 2 children, young Ben, who worked the heavy machinery. At least 20 people total, maybe more. All depending on Jake to get them out of this. No pressure at all. The lights in the corridor dimmed. Night cycle. The aliens followed a daily routine just like humans did. This was when the ship would have fewer guards awake. This was when Jake would make his move. He pulled off his work boot and reached inside. Hidden in a secret pocket was a small metal tool. It looked like a simple screwdriver, but Jake had made modifications to it years ago. It could do much more than turn screws. Jake went to the door and examined the lock. It was electronic, controlled by a pad on the outside. But electronics needed power, and power meant wires. Jake used his tool to remove a small panel near the door frame. Inside were the wires he expected to find. Zephyrian technology was advanced, but it followed the same basic principles as human engineering. Current flowed from one place to another. If you interrupted that flow in the right way, you could cause interesting things to happen. Jake found the wire he needed and made a small cut. Then he connected his tool to the circuit. The tool had a tiny computer inside, one he had built himself. It began analyzing the electronic signals in the wire. It took 10 minutes for the tool to crack the door's security code. The lock clicked, open with a soft sound. Jake put his boot back on and opened the door just enough to look out. The corridor was empty. The board guard was at the other end of the hall, probably reading or playing games on his computer. Jake slipped out of his cell and moved to Lisa's door. "Lisa," he whispered through the small window. "It's me." Her face appeared at the window. Her eyes were red from crying, but she looked relieved to see him. "Jake, how did you get out?" "I'll explain later. Stay quiet." Jake opened her door the same way he had opened his own. Lisa stepped out into the corridor, and Jake handed her a piece of metal he had pulled from his cell wall. "It's not much of a weapon, but it's better than nothing," he said quietly. They moved down the hall, opening more doors. Each freed colonist got a makeshift weapon, a piece of metal, a broken tool, anything that could be used to fight. Jake knew they would need every advantage they could get. When all the prisoners were free, Jake gathered them in the corridor. 23 people, including 5 children, all looking at him like he had all the answers. "Listen carefully," Jake whispered. "We're going to take control of this ship." Old Peterson looked at him like he was crazy. "Jake, these are aliens with advanced weapons and armor. We're just miners and farmers." "That's what they think too. That's why this will work." Jake pointed down the corridor. "The ship's main power distribution center is 3 levels up from here. If we can get there, I can shut down their weapons, their shields, their communications, everything." "How do you know where it is?" Lisa asked. "I've been listening. Ships have sounds. Different sounds come from different places. I can hear where the power flows." Jake looked at each person. "But we have to move fast and stay quiet. If they raise an alarm before I get to that power center, we're all dead." Mary held her children close. "What about the kids? They can't fight." They won't have to. Ben, you take Mary and the kids to the shuttle bay. It's on this level at the end of that corridor. Jake pointed left. The shuttles there are small, but they can get you back to the planet. What about the rest of us? Peterson asked. We're going to cause a distraction. A big one. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. I'm going to show these aliens what happens when you underestimate human engineering. Jake led them through the ship's corridors. He had memorized the route during his capture and interrogation. Left turn straight for 50 meters, right turn up the stairs. The ship was quiet during night cycle. Most of the crew was asleep. They only met one guard on the way. The alien was half asleep at his post. Peterson hit him over the head with a metal pipe before the creature could sound an alarm. They tied the guard up and kept moving. The power distribution center was behind a heavy door marked with warning symbols in alien writing. Jake didn't need to read the symbols to know this was a dangerous place. He could hear the hum of massive electrical equipment behind the door. This is it, he said. Lisa, take half the group and go back the way we came. Make noise. Break things. Make them think you're trying to escape through the main corridors. Draw the guards away from here. What are you going to do? I'm going to turn their own ship against them. Lisa kissed him quickly. Be careful. Always am. Jake opened the power center door with his electronic tool. Inside was a room full of humming machinery. Thick cables ran along the walls like metal. Snakes. Control panels blinked with thousands of lights. This was the heart of the alien ship. Jake went to the main control panel and plugged his tool into the system. The little computer began analyzing the ship's power grid. Within minutes, Jake understood how everything worked. The aliens had built their ship exactly as he had guessed. Powerful, impressive, but with critical weaknesses. In the distance, he could hear shouting. Lisa and her group had started their distraction. Alien voices called out in their harsh language. Boots ran through corridors. The ship was waking up. Jake found what he was looking for, the main power coupling that fed energy to the weapons systems. He also found the backup power lines that supplied the communication array and the shield generators. Time to show General Vexitar what a human engineer could really do. Jake began pulling wires and rerouting power connections, but he wasn't trying to shut everything down. That would be too obvious. Instead, he created feedback loops and power surges. He turned the ship's own electrical system into a weapon against itself. The lights in the power center began to flicker. Then the lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in, but Jake had already sabotaged that too. The ship was now running on minimal power, just enough to keep life support working. Alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Jake could hear aliens shouting and running in panic. Their advanced warship was dying around them, and they didn't know why. Jake smiled in the darkness. Phase 1 was complete. Now came the hard part. He had to get everyone off this ship before General Vexitar figured out what had happened. Varco stood over Ethan, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the dimly lit server room. The alien general's eyes glowed with rage, his sharp teeth bared as he growled low in his throat. "You think you've won, little human?" Varco said, his voice like gravel rolling down stone. "You are nothing. A worm who dared to bite the hand that held him." Ethan, bruised and bleeding, leaned against the cold metal wall for support. His vision blurred at the edges, but he forced himself to stand tall. He knew this might be the last moment of his life, but he also knew something else. He had already won. "I didn't come here to win," Ethan said, his voice hoarse but steady. "I came here to show your people what you really are." Varkos laughed, a deep, cruel sound. "And what is that? Coward," Ethan said. "A liar, a leader who feeds on fear instead of earning respect." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then the lights flickered, warning klaxons began to blare, red lights flashed along the walls, alarms screamed in the distance. The ship trembled slightly under their feet. Varkos turned toward the nearest console, his face twisting in confusion. "What is this?" Ethan smiled through swollen lips. "That would be your downfall." On the screen above them, systems began to fail one by one. Targeting arrays went offline, shield generators dropped to zero, engines sputtered, communications, Channels burst with panicked voices. "You uploaded a virus?" Varkos snarled, turning back to Ethan with murder in his eyes. "Not just any virus," Ethan said. "One built from your own outdated code. Your empire may have grown, but it still runs on old tech, and I found the cracks." Varkos roared and lunged forward, grabbing Ethan by the collar. He lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. Ethan gasped, choking for air. "You will die for this," Varkos growled. Just then, the door behind them hissed open. A young alien officer stepped inside, weapon raised. His skin was pale green, his uniform marked with rank insignia too low for anyone to notice before. Ethan recognized him. Kellen, the same officer who had brought him food during his captivity, the one who had started asking questions. "Let him go, General," Kellen said, his voice shaking but firm. Varkos laughed again, though there was no humor in it. "Or what? You'll shoot me? You're nothing but a child playing soldier." "I am a soldier," Kellen said, "but not yours anymore." With that, he fired. The shot hit Varkos in the arm, knocking him backward. Ethan fell hard to the floor, coughing and gasping. Varkos howled in pain, clutching his wound. "Traitor," he shouted, pointing a clawed finger at Kellen. More footsteps echoed in the hall outside. Several other officers entered the room, all holding weapons. Some were young, others older, but they all stood together. "We are done following you," one of them said. "Your war has cost us everything." Varkos looked around, his eyes wild with disbelief. "This is madness. I gave you purpose." "No," said another. "You gave us orders, not purpose." The alarms continued to scream. The ship shuddered, again harder this time. Somewhere far away, an explosion rocked the hull. Ethan pushed himself up. "It's over, Varkos. The virus is spreading. Your fleet is falling apart." Varkos turned on him again, fury burning in his eyes. "Then I will kill you myself." Before he could move, Kellen fired again. The blast struck Varkos in the chest. The alien general staggered back, his mouth opening and closing silently. Then he collapsed to the floor, unmoving. Silence fell. Ethan looked at Kellen. "Thank you." Kellen nodded, but his face was grim. "We must leave. Now." They ran through the corridors of the dying ship. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Crew members fled in panic, abandoning posts. The command ship groaned like a wounded beast. As they reached the hangar bay, Kellen stopped. "I cannot leave. My place is here." Ethan looked at him. "You don't have to stay." "Yes," Kellen said. "I do. Someone must tell the truth when this is over." Ethan understood. He nodded once, then climbed aboard the small escape pod waiting nearby. The hatch sealed behind him. Moments later, the pod launched into space. Behind him, the alien flagship burned. Back on Earth, Lena and her team watched from the command center as reports poured in. "Targeting systems down," one analyst said. "Shields failing across the fleet," another added. "Multiple ships are retreating." Cheers broke out in the control room. People hugged, cried, and laughed all at once. The impossible had happened. They had won. Lena stared at the screen, her hands trembling. She whispered, almost to herself, "You did it, Ethan." In space, the escape pod drifted. Ethan sat alone, watching the chaos unfold. His body ached. His mind swam with exhaustion, but he smiled. He had played the long game. He had used his wits, his knowledge, and his belief in people to change the course of history. As the pod's systems powered down for rest mode, Ethan closed his eyes. He let the stars carry him home. Ethan woke up slowly, like coming up from deep water. His body felt heavy, his head throbbed, and every muscle ached. He opened his eyes to soft light and white walls. Machines beeped quietly around him. He was on Earth. A nurse came over and smiled when she saw he was awake. "Welcome back," she said gently. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She gave him water, and he drank it slowly. "Where am I?" he asked. "A recovery center," she said. "You've been asleep for a while." He didn't ask how. Long. He just lay there, letting it all sink in. He had survived. Outside, the world was changing. The alien fleet was gone. Some ships fled, others crashed or burned in orbit. Humanity had won, not with weapons or numbers, but with courage and cleverness. In the days that followed, Ethan learned what had happened after he left the command ship. Varkos was dead. His officers had turned against him. Without strong leadership, the alien forces fell apart. Ships without orders drifted into chaos. Some surrendered, others vanished into space, never to be seen again. On Earth, people celebrated. Cities lit up at night. People hugged strangers in the streets. Children played games pretending to be heroes like Ethan. But Ethan didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired, sad. He had lost friends. He had made hard choices. And though he had saved millions, he knew war left scars that never fully healed. Still, life went on. Lena Torres became a leader in the new Global Defense Council. Her team helped rebuild cities and protect Earth from future threats. Scientists studied the alien wreckage, learning things they had only dreamed of before. One day, Lena visited Ethan at the recovery center. "You look better," she said, sitting beside his bed. "I feel better," he said. "Still sore, though." She smiled. "You did something no one else could." "I just did what I had to," he said. "No," she said. "You did more than that. You changed everything." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she handed him a tablet. "What's this?" he asked. "Video message," she said. "From Kellen." Ethan's eyes widened. "He survived?" Lena nodded. Ethan opened the video. On the screen was Kellen, standing in what looked like an alien council chamber. "I hope this reaches you," Kellen said. "I don't know if you are alive, but I hope so." His face was serious. "The truth must be told," he continued. "Varkos was a tyrant. We were taught to believe we were strong, but strength built on fear is weak. You showed us another way." Kellen looked straight into the camera. "Thank you, Ethan. You gave us a chance to change. I will use that chance." The video ended. Ethan stared at the screen for a long time. Then he looked at Lena. "He's going to make things better," he said. She nodded. "Yeah, and so are we." Weeks later, Ethan stood on a hill outside the city. Below him, workers and scientists moved around the remains of the alien flagship. It had crashed far from any major town, and now it was being studied piece by piece. He wore simple clothes, jeans, a jacket, boots. No medals, no titles. Just a man who had done something big and wanted to go back to being small again. Lena walked up beside him. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how fast everything changed," he said. "We were about to lose. Then we won. Now the whole galaxy knows who we are." She looked out over the wreckage. "Some people say we should build bigger weapons. Prepare for the next attack." Ethan shook his head. "That's what Varkos would do." She glanced at him. "Then, what should we do?" He took a deep breath. "We should learn. We should reach out. Maybe not as soldiers, but as people." She smiled. "Diplomats?" "Maybe," he said. "Or just neighbors." They stood there for a while, watching the sun set behind the broken hull of the alien ship. Back in the city, a message was sent into space. It was not a warning. It was not a threat. It was a greeting. "This is Earth. We have seen war. We have known fear. But we also know peace. If you come in friendship, we welcome you. If not, know this, we are ready." The signal was broadcast across multiple frequencies, aimed at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone might hear it. And maybe, just maybe, they would respond. Back at the recovery center, a young girl sat in a wheelchair. Her name was Mia. She had lost her legs in the attack, but she was still smiling. She watched a news report about Ethan and the battle. Her brother sat beside her. "Do you think he'll come visit?" she asked. "Maybe," her brother said. She looked out the window at the sky. The stars were starting to show. "I want to meet him someday," she said. Her brother smiled. "Me too." Ethan never stopped feeling the weight of what he had done. But he also knew something else. He had given people hope, and hope was stronger than fear, even in the darkest corners of space.